for the second time. The Vince Lombardi Trophy is headed to Philadelphia. Eagles fly in Super Bowl 59.
These are the Philadelphia Eagles. They have been to 3 of the last 8 Super Bowls, including winning 2 of them. By this point, hearing that, the Eagles seem like they are a consistently great team, a great franchise, a great organization that is a consistent winner. Sort of, yeah, but like not in the way you think they are. In the last 8 years, there's been a lot of turmoil in Philadelphia in between the glory of the Super Bowl. And let's get into it, because this is fascinating to me. There is no organization in sports exactly like this. So first of all, I'll just tell you, like, ever since 2016, there have been 9 Super Bowls played. Tom Brady won 3 Super Bowls in that span. Patrick Mahomes won 3 Super Bowls. Among the other 3, the Philadelphia Eagles have won 2 of them. And then the other one was won by the Rams in 2021. Thinking about that is pretty crazy considering how up and down the Eagles seem to be every year. Let's just get into it. 2017, this was Doug Peterson's team. They win the Super Bowl with a backup quarterback in Nick Foles. After Carson Wentz had an MVP campaign, he tore his ACL. Nick Foles leads the team on a miraculous run to win the Super Bowl. Then after that, the next 4 years, the Eagles would make the playoffs 3 times. However, every single time they made the playoffs, they barely squeaked in and were not really a threat to do anything in the playoffs. Any of those times. They were always the last team in. They won 9 games each of those times, next 4 years. So they were kind of just a meh, good playoff team, barely a playoff team those years. All right, so it seems like the Super Bowl is just a fluke. They got hot at the right time, and they're just a decent team. Well, 2020, the one year they didn't win 9 games, they won 4 games. They went 4-11-1. They have a 4-win season in this mix of 3 Super Bowls in 8 years, and surrounded that are 9-win last seasons. They even changed their coach and quarterback, who they won a Super Bowl with. They fired Doug Peterson and hired Nick Sirianni to be the new head coach. In 2021, the funny thing is, the Eagles bounced back in a surprising 9-win season after it looked like they're going to a rebuild. They had a surprising 9-win season, which then made the Eagles aggressive in the offseason. They trade for A.J. Brown. Boom, the next season, Jalen Hurts breaks out. They're in the Super Bowl. And the roster's stacked. They make the Super Bowl. They're a dominant team all year long. And then their coordinators leave. Shane Steichen leaves to be the head coach of the Colts. Jonathan Gann leaves to be the head coach of the Cardinals. And then the next year is a complete disaster with the coordinators. Funny thing, though, they actually started 10-1, and before their slide, they actually beat 3 of the best teams in the league that year. They beat the Cowboys, they beat the Chiefs and the Bills back-to-back weeks, and then they lost 5 of 6. But they barely won all those games. They lost 5 of the next 6. And then got destroyed in the playoffs by a 9-win Tampa Bay Buccaneers team that was at the start of what they become today. After that, everything fell apart. Nick Sirianni had to go. Jalen Hurts sucks all of a sudden. So after making the Super Bowl, 1 year after making the Super Bowl, the Eagles are in turmoil. Then the next year happens, 2024. They actually start out pretty bad, 2-2. But The rest of the season, they only lost one game. The rest of the season. And that game, Jalen Hurts got injured in. So Jalen Hurts did not lose a single game the rest of the season. And they won the Super Bowl. And not only did this Eagles team win the Super Bowl, they were dominant. They had great players at every position. And I made a video on that stacked Eagles team, which you can find in the videos below, after they won the Super Bowl. That team was stacked. And they were one of the greatest teams in the history of the sport. In their playoff games, they won 3 of them by blowouts, including their last 2, which included a dominant win in the Super Bowl over the dynasty Kansas City Chiefs. The Eagles were dominant. Historically great. One of the greatest teams in the history of the sport. They were unstoppable, it felt like. No one could beat them. Then, this year, right now, 8 months after one of the greatest teams ever assembled, the Eagles look mediocre again. Yeah, and before this losing streak, they won 1-possession games against a lot of good teams. They beat the Chiefs, they beat the Rams in a last-second field goal from a comeback, and they went on the road to beat a very good Buccaneers team. And they were up 17-3 against the Broncos. But they barely won these games. And then they choked against the Broncos in the fourth quarter. And they got destroyed by the measly New York Giants. And right now, the Eagles seem like they're in turmoil. Eagles fans are not happy about the team's performance. The locker room seems to be messed up. Everything seems to be going downhill. 1 year after winning the Super Bowl. Does that sound familiar? Because I think I've said that before. I think I said that. The crazy thing is some stats. Let's just get some stats in here. The Eagles have gone through this with not one, but 2 different coaches in the past decade. They won a Super Bowl with Doug Peterson. He got ran out of town because he wasn't performing well, and it was kind of a fluky year. With Nick Sirianni, they're up and they're down, they're up and they're down. Pretty much the same thing with Doug Peterson. They changed coaches and quarterbacks. They had a lot of success, winning a lot, being the best of the best, but never in consecutive years. Despite on the surface how dominant the Eagles have been over the last 8 years with their amount of appearances in the big game and winning, the Eagles have never won the division back-to-back years in that time span. They're never the 5th best team in the league. They're either the best or they're a talented, underperforming roster. And there's really nowhere in between, it feels like. Another crazy stat. Both in 2021 and 2023, they lost to Tampa Bay in the playoffs. They played the Chiefs both times the last 3 Super Bowls. It would make more sense if these last 4 years in particular, which I'm mostly focusing on, but they have this run before that adds to it even more. That's a little bit different, but it's still crazy when you add on to that. It would make more sense if they either had 2 rough years, then figured things out and went to the Super Bowl 2 years in a row. No, they went from the Super Bowl, they lost that Super Bowl to the Chiefs, to a train wreck season with bad coordinators, to they fix everything in one offseason. They have a magical, incredible offseason. Howie Roseman builds this super team, and they win the Super Bowl with one of the greatest rosters ever assembled. And then they lose a few pieces, and the team just doesn't seem right. It makes no sense in just what you'd think, because the Eagles do not have a winning culture. Their culture is very inconsistent. their rosters have been incredible. And I think Howie Roseman's an incredible GM. It's just insane to me. The team results are kind of like the fan base. Because after the Super Bowl, Eagles fans are like, Jalen Hurts is the greatest quarterback of all time. He's Tom Brady. He is so good. If you say a bad thing about Jalen Hurts, you're dumb and you don't know winners. And now it's like, oh, Jalen Hurts sucks. He's so overrated. We got to move on from him. I mean, the Eagles fan base just makes this up and down roller coaster feel even bigger than it already actually is, which it already is insane on the surface itself. Like, the Philadelphia Eagles are the young college life in a way for a lot of kids. Many people say college is the best time of their lives. And I think when people look back on this Eagles team, it's going to be remembered for the successes, not the failures, because history is written by winners, and the Eagles have won. Just like a lot of college students who go to college are like, man, the parties, the friends you make, it's so great, it's the best time in your life. But there's also a lot of moments where college is just miserable. You have to work all the time. You have to do these stupid assignments. That's what the Eagles are. And there is very few sports teams, any sports team I can really think of that's like this. Like, think of the contenders in the NFL. Feels like the Chiefs are sometimes, they never have a bad year like the Eagles do. But the Eagles' dominant performances are way more dominant than the Chiefs' performances. Like, it is fascinating how the Eagles, every other year, it feels like they suck, and then every other year, it feels like they're just amazing. They're never the 5th best team. They're never the 6th best team. They're never a 3 seed in the playoffs. They're never an 11, 12 win good team that just got outbeat by a better team. They're either the cream of the crop or they're in turmoil, and it sometimes feels like there's nowhere in between. But honestly, you'd much rather have that than just be mediocre every year.